Hey guys, it's Taylor here from Adreno Spearfishing. Today we're going to be talking about the range of pole spears that we have in here at Adreno Brisbane. Pole spears are probably the easiest and cheapest way to get into the sport. If you're looking at having a bit of a crack at it and you're not sure if you're going to like the sport, you just want to spend a little bit of money just to have a crack, pole spear is going to be the way to go rather than outlaying a big investment in the gun. Now we're going to talk about, there's obviously anywhere between $15 anywhere to $300 for a pole spear. We're going to talk about the slight differences in materials and designs and really see what's going to be right for you. Now they've got a few different options when it comes to pole spears. They come in a single piece, so just one piece of aluminium with your hand spear loop and a threaded tip. Now typically they will all come with a pranger head, and whether it's a female or male insert will depend on each spear. So after your single piece, you can then go to a two-piece hand spear. And so we've got one of these guys here. And the biggest thing with these guys is that it folds down to 1 meter rather than being quite large and bulky like the single piece. So this makes it easier to travel with, and a larger hand spear just means you can have more range. You can then from there also go to a three-piece hand spear, which as you can see here can fold down quite small. So if you're traveling overseas or anything like that and you're really space orientated, you can look at the three pieces, which will work out perfect for you. So there's some pros and cons about each of those designs. Now having a single piece means one piece of, whether it be aluminium or steel, there's one piece, there's less places for your hand spear to fail, also less places for it to flex. So when you're loading something like the single piece, you can see once it's loaded that there's minimal flex through the whole spear. Whereas if you're to load a spear that has two joins here, you'll actually see it start to bend in the middle at those places. So this can mean that when you are loading, you're actually firing, that you're not going to be as accurate as you can be. But there are a few different ways that we can load the hand spear, which I'll show you later, that can combat this flex in the pole spear. So you've got something like this one, which starts around that $20 mark, which is quite cheap. So again, this is definitely an entry-level hand spear. Biggest thing you've got to watch with your hand spears is always looking at your prangers. As hitting rocks and fish, you'll start to see these bend a lot, so just get a set of pliers and make sure you bend them in. But that'll be the most consumable part on your hand spear pretty well, apart from the rubber loop. From there, these guys here range from anywhere from $20 to $80. From there, you can jump it up a little bit more in quality-wise, and you can start looking at the Cressie pole spear, which is a stainless steel back and a fiberglass front. Now, this is joined by a male and female 5/16 thread, so a really strong grip, and this is the two-piece. Now the reason they've put stainless steel in the back is for the rigidity and the weight, and fiberglass at the front because they can make it quite nice and narrow. And this one also has a grip up at the front, so it makes it a lot easier to hold onto rather than trying to hold onto with a glove, just some stainless steel, which is quite easy to slip. Now when you start looking at these ones here, there's a few different options. You can, like the others, put a pranger on the tip. So these guys come with a 5/16 thread at the tip. We can put a pranger on it. We can also put a straight shaft, so an actual flopped shaft that will go straight on the tip. We can actually put a threaded top section on here as well. So this one here. So this can also be fitted with a slip tip when you're starting to chase the bigger fish. So this is where you start moving up in spearfishing, where you're trying to have a bit of a challenge. You're trying to shoot the bigger fish that you usually shoot with a gun that you're now trying to shoot with a hand spear, so you're challenging yourself quite a bit. Now when you actually start playing with hand spears, you'll feel the weight in them. So the biggest benefit of weight is actually that when you're hitting the fish, you're getting a lot more punch behind it, so there's more chance of you hurting the fish quite a lot more. The only thing when you start looking at heavier spears, that when you're actually shooting horizontally, because of the weight of the spear, you'll start to see it drop a lot quicker. So with these guys, you can't really take those longer shots that you can with the lighter spear. So that's something to take in consideration when you start using heavier spears. When you're shooting down on fish, beautiful. These things will just rock it because there isn't obviously gravity. It just wants to fall and hit them pretty hard. Now, we were talking earlier about the flex between the two pieces. Now, these guys here, they've got super solid connections here, so you won't see too much flex through ones like these, but the cheaper ones that do have a bit more flex or are quite longer, because you can get pole spears anywhere up to 13 foot long. Now with that, when you're actually loading the spear in the water, so when you're swimming down, you're about to take your shot, when you load, you want to be using this left hand, or for me, this left hand, and you want to pull it and spin. And you'll see that this rubber actually wraps around, and so that distributes the pressure around rather than just from point A to point B, which will make it flex in the middle, whereas this wraps it around it, so it supports it and stops that flex. So again, this is going to stop your spear from having that whip once you let it go, meaning you're going to be a lot more accurate and you're going to hopefully hit a lot more fish and land a lot more fish. So with a pole spear, as mentioned earlier, there is just about endless possibilities what you can do with them. You can run around through your local estuaries chasing flathead, bream, luderick, and the pranger will be perfect for that. Then you can start actually, beefing up what you're using, and there's a lot of footage out there of guys shooting wahoo with pole spears, breakaway setups. So it can be, it is quite interesting as what you can do with these. So definitely don't underestimate them. Another big thing that you really need to consider when you're using a pole spear, because there is threads pretty much throughout the whole thing, it's connecting your tips as well as joining them in the middle. This is points where you really need to make sure that you're keeping good care of them. If you actually dive a lot and you're just not washing your gear and you're leaving them connected, you'll see in even a week's time sometimes that the corrosion has already started and your hand spear will not come apart. Now, this is obviously something we don't want to happen. So every time you do actually use your hand spear, try and remember to rinse all of the threads with fresh water, and you can also give them a light spray of WD if you want, just something to coat them and stop that corrosion. At the end of the day, you want to be proactive about looking after your gear. You want to make sure it lasts as long as possible. So there you have it, guys. There's a little bit of information on pole spears. If you have any more questions, just give us a call or pop on down to your shop. But make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you don't miss out on any of these helpful hints. Thanks, guys.